The other thing that he takes, he mentions Donald Trump. He starts his address, and I made a note of that as well. He started his address before he took the questions, was calling Prime Minister Modi his friend, and he also ended it by saying that the relationship between the two countries has never been as strong as it is. Try putting that into perspective for our viewers, Rohit, if you could. We will try and get Rohit back. There seems to be some issue. Let me, go back to U.S. Congressman Sri Thanedar, who continues to be with us. So once again, let me thank you for being very patient with us. So much to talk about. As you saw as well, would have seen in those visuals, plenty happening in that room where that press brief took place. But let me ask the same question to you as I did to Rohit. He starts by calling Prime Minister his friend. He ends by saying that the ties between the two countries have never been stronger than they are right now. How do you look at this in terms of the relationship going forward? Is this, in fact, when the US President says such a thing, does this mean that you're looking at the relationship only going from strength to strength?
Absolutely. I think this relationship, this visit was historic, and this visit will take the friendship between US and India to the next level in terms of trade. But more importantly, what struck me was that both leaders focused on peace. President Trump talked about lowering the defense budget. We're spending $915 billion. China is spending $400 billion. Russia is spending over $100 billion. And he says this money can be used for some other things if we can get along. So a lot of focus was on friendship and peace. And so did Mr. Modi. Modi ji also talked about peace. More trade, more business partnership, more purchasing of oil and energy and fighters for F-35s by India. So more business, more trade, fair trade, more peace. That's what came out. And it looks like these two leaders have got together well, and the chemistry continues. Mr. Modi has invited President Trump to come to India once again.
Yeah, and we're expecting that to happen in the second half as we look at that Quad meeting that is to take place. Also, sir, the fact that it was announced by Prime Minister Modi that in LA and in Boston you'll have a couple of other consulates come up as well. How do you look at that development?
Well, look, the Indian diaspora has contributed so much to American economy, America's well-being. And there is a continuous need to ensure that the H-1B visas are increased, the green card processing becomes much more efficient. There is a long delay in visa processing that needs to get better. So these two facilities in two different LA and Boston would go a long way. So there is continuously need to make things better for the immigrant population. America's immigration system is broken. That needs to be fixed. And it is in the best interest of American economy that we do that. And I think that became loud and clear. Another thing that I particularly found interesting was they both stand against the Islamic, radical Islamism, the terrorism, releasing of the terrorist Rana back to India. All of those are very welcome developments. They do remain united against fighting against terrorism.
Is there something new that you picked from the two of them? There were certain things in terms of shared interests we all knew about, but is there a new chapter to this friendship?
Well, look, they both are nationalists and they both are focused on what's best for their own countries, what's best for their own people. At the same time, with this nationalistic viewpoint, when they come together, they're all focused on business. They both have a business mind, and they both are looking at this as a commercial relationship. economic relationship, not so much about war, but it's more about peace. Peace and more trade, more fair trade. That's what came out loud and clear. And their friendship appears to be growing, and this will be a win-win for India-United States relationship.
When you say the two of them are true nationals, both very centric, both very, for both of them, it matters a lot what is in the best interest of the nation. Now, despite that, despite the pro-nation philosophy that the both of them had, for them to keep that in mind and then have this, then be able to forge a constructive dialogue, what does that tell you about the two of them?
Look, they are going to negotiate hard. Each of them want the best for their own countries. They're going to negotiate hard. When India put all these tariffs on American goods, President Trump reciprocated with more tariffs about the same level. So for this to work, this relationship to go forward, both nations need to deal with each other with fairness. That is most critical, that they deal with each other with fairness. And Mr. Trump wants American businesses to be able to do business with India without restrictions, without hurdles. And if that happens, then he will open up more American markets for India. But looks like there is a good start today. This has been a great meeting. I think it says a lot that President Trump invited Prime Minister Modi in the first 3 weeks of his presidency. That shows how important India is for United States and how much importance President Trump puts into this relationship.
Absolutely. When he says, and he repeatedly does that, calls Prime Minister Modi his friend, says that there's a special bond between the oldest democracy and the world's biggest democracy. There was a lot of promise coming out from President Donald Trump.